I've seen hundreds of men lead their relationship to reconciliation, and in every single one of those cases, the reconciliation stages always look the exact same. So in this video, I want to answer the question, what does the journey of reconciliation look like? How long does it actually take to reconcile? And what skills do you need in every single stage of the reconciliation process to restore your marriage? If you're new to this channel, my name is Justin Bourgeois, and I help men reconcile with their wives with the right internal and external skills, despite being in very dire situations. All right, before we dive in and I walk you through every single step, it's important to note that this isn't a scientific process, okay? I'm telling you this because I don't want you to get discouraged if you're at stage 3 and then you fall back into stage 2. This is just what I've seen is the process and what I've seen works after helping over 100 men, okay? So what I'm going to be doing is I'm literally going to walk you through where she's at every step of the journey, what you need to focus on, and your job, what you need to do in order to get to the next step. All right, so we're going to do everything from stabilizing the marriage, creating space and safety, rebuilding the man, rebuilding trust, reigniting desire, to full reconciliation. Every step of the way, I'm also going to be giving you the biggest challenge from that stage, what not to do, and I want to really dive in and show you why we do what we do and why we need to do it in this order. So this is probably what your relationship looks like right now, right? There's safety, trust, respect, connection, attraction, and commitment in a relationship. Your relationship bank account is probably running on empty. That's probably why you're watching this video. So the biggest mistake I see most guys make is they try to rebuild all these different things at the same time. So one day they're trying to rebuild connection. The next day they're trying to rebuild trust. The next day they're trying to rebuild safety. Then they'll have a conversation and they're going to try and get some type of commitment from their wives. Ask them, hey, what are we? What do you want to do moving forward? All of this is absolutely wrong. You need to first build safety before you can build trust. You need to build trust and respect before you can rebuild connection and attraction. You need to rebuild connection and attraction before you can ask for commitment. So I'm going to walk you through exactly what that looks like. So to begin, your wife is probably in negative sentiment. So negative sentiment was created by the Gottmans, so Dr. John and Julie Gottman. Essentially what it is it stems from accumulated resentment, unresolved conflict, or insecurity, leading to constant defensiveness, criticism, and a dark glasses view of the partner. I'm reading you the definition because I want you to know that this isn't a permanent state. What's happening right now is that your wife is in something called expectancy bias, which is right here. She has been hurt for so long in the past within the relationship with you that that's all that she can see and predict within the future. You and I both know that if you were to follow these steps and actually transform, the future will not look like the past. But for her, this is a protective mechanism. All right? So her negative sentiment override means that she's emotionally checked out. She's pushing you away. Nothing you do seems to be right. Everything's a manipulation tactic in her eyes. It doesn't matter what you do. You can say, hey, honey, I'll give you everything, whatever you want. And she'd still say, oh, you're doing that to win me back? She avoids relationship conversations. She sees you as the problem. Everything you say feels manipulative. She's in full resistance mode. Nothing you do works. Nothing you do lands. She sees you as the complete enemy to the relationship. And she's built up this big wall of ice. So the first thing we must do is we must stabilize. We're going to stabilize you and stabilize the marriage. Because right now, your marriage is hanging on for dear life. All right, so the first thing we have to do is stabilize the marriage. And for the clients that I work with, this takes us about a week. So you need to stop initiating with your wife right away. The reason we're doing this is so that you can let out the anger, the hurt, the pain when you're not around her. So what has just happened? If your wife has asked for separation, told you I love you, but I'm not in love with you, asked for divorce, says I'm not attracted to you anymore, there's not only the loss of the woman that you love that you're dealing with, you're also dealing with potential financial and emotional ruin, the loss of stability within your home, maybe the loss of a stable family life. There's a lot here beneath the surface. And what you need to do, what is super important, which I don't see any other coach talk about, and I don't understand why, is you need to be able to process these emotions. Emotions are energy in motion. What I tend to see happening with guys that come and join me is they'll tell me, I'll go, how you doing? And they'll go, I'm okay so long as I stay busy. I swear, almost every single guy I talk to, they tell me, I'm okay as long as I stay busy. But when I'm not busy, I'm a mess. And what this tells me is that you're not processing your emotions properly. We have a specific system and a specific process to help you process this. Because what happens if you don't, you're gonna stay angry and hurt. And the big difference between men and women is that men protect their hurt with anger. So if your wife's pulling away, there's a lot of like sadness and hurt. And what happens is, because men have egos and women have insecurities, it's one of the differences between the masculine and the feminine. Men want to protect their hurt, and so we protect it with anger. So if you're sarcastic, if you're constantly kind of judging what your wife is doing, trying to fix her, doing all these things, it means that you're hurt. So we need to be able to deal with and process that. Otherwise, you're going to continue to be fragile. And so we must make sure that we process, we handle, and we deal with these emotions quickly. I've seen guys that I haven't worked with, but in life, never deal with the hurt of their wife's pulling away, of separation, of all of those things. And what happens is that they end up carrying that for the rest of their lives, and they become old and bitter and resentful and regretful. And I don't want that for you. So you absolutely must process the hurt. The second thing we need to do is we need to rebuild your confidence. Now you may say, well, Justin, I'm a pretty confident guy. What has happened is, in the beginning, before you met your wife, you were responsible for your confidence. Maybe you were in your 20s and you were going out, you were working out, you were succeeding at work, and you were building your own confidence up. Then your wife came along, and your girlfriend at the time, and she built you up even more, and she made you feel like the king of the world. So now you had your own confidence, and she was building you up as a man, and it's beneficial for her to build you up because she wants her man to win. But once she decides to pull away, once she gets into negative sentiment override, that extra boost of confidence that you were getting from her is gone. And what happens is, along the way, a lot of guys stop being able to build their own confidence. So not only have you stopped working that muscle, but she has removed building you up as a man. And so if you're overthinking a lot, if you're sitting there thinking about every single conversation over and over, if you're ruminating a lot in your head, you're not taking decisive action moving forward in your relationship or in your life, odds are that you need to rebuild your confidence. Clients that I work with, for me to be able to coach them at the highest absolute level and pull more out of them than they could possibly pull out of themselves, they need to be able to build their own confidence. Because the higher level of confidence, the higher the level of truth that you can accept in your life. So I've seen, when I didn't do this in the beginning, helping guys, giving guys the tools to rebuild their confidence on their own, I would have to do it in the sessions. So instead of being able to give them massive breakthroughs because they weren't really ready for it, we'd have to do that in the sessions. So I find this is absolutely imperative. You let out the anger, the hurt, and the pain. You rebuild your own confidence. You regulate your nervous system. Because if you don't have a regulated nervous system and she's pulling away, every interaction is going to reinforce the fact that she's not safe with you. Okay, nervous system is about safety. So if your nervous system doesn't feel safe, her nervous system, even if you don't say anything, it's your energetic expression, her nervous system won't feel safe around you either. You need to be a calm presence in her life. So that's why we do this right away. And the last thing we need to do is shift from blaming her to taking full responsibility for your role. Take full responsibility for your 50% of this. And once again, it's difficult for guys to do this if they haven't gone through the process. And a lot of guys think they've taken responsibility, but they haven't taken 100% responsibility for their 50%. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see in step one. You think you are, but you're not. All right, do not, in this stage, chase reassurance, right? We want to limit the conversations with your wife until you've done all of these things. If you do need to talk to her, make sure there's no emotion involved. You're not talking about the relationship. It's just logistical. Don't ask where you stand. Don't beg, plead, or over-apologize. Do not try to fix the relationship yet. You're not trying to rebuild trust. You're not trying to reignite desire. You're not ready yet. And the biggest thing is don't lose hope. This is the biggest thing that separates the guys that save their marriages versus the guys that don't. The guys that do realize that it's their hope and their love versus their wife's fear. What I mean by that is your wife is dealing with expectation bias and negative sentiment override. This is a very fearful state for her. So emotionally, she's in fear mode. And emotionally, you're probably in love mode. You love her and you want to save your marriage. Who has more faith? That's what's going to determine who saves them, what happens in the relationship. Do we go her route or do we go your route? So the biggest thing for you is not to lose hope. And I can tell you, I've worked with so many guys. You absolutely can do this. It doesn't matter if she says, I never want to speak to you again. I hate you. I can't stand you. Any of those things. If she's trying to block you and she doesn't want to talk to you anymore. If you are willing to stick to the process, if you are willing to believe in yourself, to get a coach, to believe in the coach, maybe it's me, to believe in a process, then your belief will allow you to change her state. Because guess what? She didn't marry you. She wasn't an expectation bias and negative sentiment override when she married you. Things happen in the relationship that made her feel that way, which means you can do different things in the relationship to make her feel a different way. All right? You absolutely have the power to change your relationship. So this is where we're at. We've stabilized the marriage. Now, what we're going to focus on is rebuilding safety. All right? So your wife is probably still in negative sentiment. And now you're probably saying, Justin, well, what the hell? We just did all this work in stage 1. First week, we really made sure that we were stable, we were grounded, we rebuilt our confidence, we took 100% ownership, and she's still in negative sentiment override. That's okay. That's the beauty of having a map. We're not trying to strike a home run right away. She's going to be, this is the hardest stage when she's in negative sentiment override. What we need to focus on now is creating that space and that safety. So the biggest challenges in this stage are, number 1, outcome attachment. This is when a guy relies on her reactions, her reassurance, or engagement to feel emotionally okay. Essentially, your stability is still tied to how she responds. If she's out, are you out? If she's uncertain, are you uncertain? If she says she's done, are you done? And when you start to base your decision-making process on her emotions, you're giving her leadership of the relationship. And not just her, you're giving her fears the leadership of the relationship. And her fears will lead the relationship to divorce. That's almost a guarantee. So you need to decide 100%. The only thing you can change, the only thing you can affect is this. What are you committed to and what do you do about it? So the biggest thing I help my clients do is make sure that we are 100% committed without attachment. It doesn't matter how she shows up. It doesn't matter what she does in these stages. We're committed to doing the work and becoming the best version of ourselves to give ourselves the best shot at saving this marriage. Now, the second biggest challenge is threat response activation. This is when the relationship feels unstable. Typically, a man's nervous system goes into threat mode. And when your nervous system goes into threat mode, you over-explain, you're always checking in, you're fixing her, she texts and you respond right away. And all of these behaviors feel like pressure rather than safety. A lot of guys don't know that they're doing this. So the biggest thing, if we want to create safety, we need to remove all pressure, even nervous system pressure. All right, so her state, she's still negative sentiment. Basically, she's saying, I'm done, I can't stand you, I want a divorce. Your job is to create space and safety. What we're gonna do here, this process takes about a week as well. We're going to remove all expectations completely. What hurts us in life isn't so much what happens to us, it's our expectations of what we think will happen. And a good example of that is if I were to put my favorite pair of jeans on and I'm expecting to find a $100 bill in those jeans. I put the jeans on, put my hand in my pocket, pull out the bill, and it's just a $20 bill. Well, I'm disappointed, I'm sad. I'm like, what the hell, man? I thought there was $100 in there. Now let's pretend I put the pair of jeans on and I don't expect any money at all. I just totally forgot I don't expect any money. Put my pants on, put the pair of jeans on, put my hand in my pocket, find a $20 bill. I'm ecstatic. I'm super happy. I'm like, man, that just made my day. It's the same circumstance, the same outcome. But my expectations were different, which means my emotional experience were different. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This process isn't going to be easy. So we need to make sure that you don't have expectations. That old marriage that you had is gone. You shouldn't want that old marriage because obviously she wasn't happy within it. So in order for you to build a new marriage, you need to approach this as if you're learning a new woman. There are no expectations of respect, of intimacy, of love, of anything. And if you can get to that state, everything else becomes much easier. Another thing we have to do is let go of control. This is a very important aspect that you must fully understand because the reason she's pulling away is because she feels like you're controlling her in some way. So if you want her to stop pulling away now, and not 6 months from now after the divorce and after everything's final and she's gone and she doesn't want to speak to you anymore. You need to let go of the control. So I've worked with guys a lot of guys who have started the divorce process with their wives, and then they come and see me. So for this client, the example that I'm seeing for this client is his wife was seeing another man and she wanted to divorce, and it was all of a sudden for him. And he was kind of controlling what she could do with the kids, what she couldn't do with the kids, her behaviors. He was like looking at her phone logs, looking at all these different things. And the more you do that, I get you want to protect your family, you want to do those things. But once the divorce is final and she has that space from you, she's going to be able to do what she wants with who she wants, however she wants. So the biggest piece of advice I can give you is to let go of the control now and let her come back. Because if you're pushing forward and trying to control, she's just going to pull back. So you need to be the one to create that space first. Another important thing is to stop monitoring her behavior. Stop all judgments and expectations. And what we're going to do while we're in this stage is we're going to understand her pain, because understanding her pain is going to allow you to do all of these things a lot better. When you understand that she's not doing these things to try and hurt you, but that she's actually very hurt herself. And once you start to understand what's going on in her internal world, it gives you compassion, it gives you grace, and it gives you understanding. And when you have those things, it's easier to stop monitoring her behavior. It's easier to let go of control. Another thing that you need to do is learn to forgive yourself for the marriage breakdown. There's no point of wallowing in self-pity and blaming yourself. How couldn't I have seen this? I'm such a bad husband. I'm such a bad man. I can't believe I led to the breakdown of my family. Shame and guilt are not positive emotions. They don't help you. So this is actually more of a self-destructive pattern. It's not doing you any good to beat yourself down. So what we do is we help you actually forgive yourself, and we help you forgive her as well, so that you can move forward with a clean slate, with no resentment, with no baggage. And the final thing here, which is extremely important, is you need to be able to identify the root causes of the collapse. Not doing the dishes is not one of the causes of the collapse. Coming home late, arguments, not being able to communicate, shutting down, all of those things are surface level issues. What we do with our clients is we map out every single surface level issue that you have in your relationship, and we boil them down to about 3 to 5 main core issues. The core issues are always something that we can actually do something about. That's why our program is called The Empowered Husband. We give you things and allow you to see things that you can actually impact, which empowers you. Because right now you're probably throwing shit at the wall, seeing what sticks. You're being Mr. Nice Guy, you're bending over backwards, you're trying not to make her angry, but you're still end up in a conversation and you step on this invisible landmine, and next thing you know, it blows up in your face and she's still angry at you. That's all happening because you don't know the root problems in the relationship, so you don't know what to fix. Another symptom of this is that you're working really, really hard in the relationship and you feel like you're not getting anywhere. High effort, low result means you're not fixing the right problems. So it's important that you work with a coach or you find out a way to figure out what the root causes are. And you can watch other videos. I have other videos on the channel that can help you out with that. So in this stage, do not push for connection. We still don't have safety yet. We're building towards safety. Do not ask for emotional reassurance. Okay, if she says she hates you, that's okay. You don't have to ask, do you hate me a little less today? Look, I've been working on myself for a little while. Look at all the progress I'm making. Don't share how much you've changed. Don't initiate relationship talks. Because if you share how much you've changed, you're creating pressure. You're removing the space. We want to create the space for her to be able to look at you and see your changes. You don't want to pressure her into seeing your changes. And we're still not initiating relationship talks. The key skill, as we mentioned, is outcome detachment. So if we've done all the work in this stage, we should have safety. This means she is no longer actively pursuing divorce or separation or space from you. If you create safety in the relationship, she's going to start opening up. She's going to start being more neutral towards you. So we went from negative sentiment override to now her state is skepticism. This is where she's torn between hope and fear. She wants to believe that you can change, that you can fulfill her needs, that you can be the husband that she wants. But that fear that we were talking about in negative sentiment override is still very much there. So this is a difficult place for her. One day she's going to be hot, the next day she's going to be cold. Her emotions are up and down like a yo-yo. She's also going to start testing you more often. In the first stage, she's more in apathy. Maybe she's not testing you all that much. So when the tests start coming, you need to be grateful for them, because tests are her way of rebuilding trust. Okay, it's important to know that. The more she tests you, the more she's actually trying to rebuild trust. Not consciously, but subconsciously. So in this stage, she's going to engage in small talk with you. She's going to send you mixed signals, and she's going to watch you, but from a distance. The biggest challenge here is pattern blindness. I'll come back to this in a second, but this is super important. So what we're going to do, she's in skepticism. She's in skepticism because she wants to believe that you can be the man, but you're not really that man yet. And so what we want to do is we want to focus on rebuilding the man. We want to make sure that her skepticism is completely removed, that she knows without a shadow of a doubt that you are the man that can fulfill her needs. So your job is to actually rebuild the man. Once again, I don't see this in any relationship programs, any save your marriage programs. They just focus all on the wife. And this is why my approach is different. As you can see, we focus on her journey, what your wife is going through. We also focus on your journey and what you need to do as a man to level up, to be that grounded, stable, confident riverbank, which I'll show you in a second, the difference between the masculine and the feminine. The masculine is the riverbank, the feminine is the river, the water within it. You need to actually up-level yourself. And so what we do here is we rebuild the man, which means we need to master the inner game. And I talk about this like weeds in a garden. Let's say you had this beautiful garden, but you started noticing weeds in the garden, and you just ignored the weeds. You know, you did the positive thinking thing, like people say, and you just chanted, there are no weeds, there are no weeds, there are no weeds. What happens to the garden? It'll get overtaken by weeds. And so in life, the weeds are the fears, the doubts, the insecurities, the limiting beliefs, all of these things that start to grow in our internal world, in our mind, in our mindset. And so all the positive affirmations or the positive chanting or positive thinking in the world isn't going to change those negative beliefs and those negative weeds. So what we need to do is we need to remove the weeds. And then we can plant the seeds of purpose, joy, freedom, happiness, all of those different things. What you need to be able to do is to create version you 2.0. There are a couple different ways you can do this. As men, that means getting in action. Because once you start taking action, your emotions are going to change. When your emotions change, right, your energy, your thoughts start to change. When your thoughts start to change, your identity starts to change because you start to think differently of yourself. So we absolutely want to get you in action. Another thing that we do in the program, we do it both ways. We get you in action with the right actions to up-level yourself. We also do it the other way, where we're going to go and look at your thoughts. What exactly is happening at the thought level that's creating these emotions? And then these emotions are creating these specific actions, are creating the results of your lives. So you can see here, we use psychology to understand everything that's happening from your thoughts, your actions, your emotions, your reactions, and the results of your lives. So essentially, you become a man who's in control of his thoughts, his emotions, and his actions. We help you develop a bulletproof mind because, you know, the next step is about passing her tests. We want to be ready before we get to that stage. You need to be bulletproof. You're going to want to get in the best mental, physical, emotional, spiritual shape of your life. We want to do this because you want to turn pain into power, pain into purpose. And right now, there's probably a lot of pain in your life. And the biggest thing I see is that guys tend to want to run away from the pain. I want you to embrace it. I want you to look at this as the best opportunity you've ever had in your life to become the man you knew you've always wanted to become. Use the pain. If the pain is there, use it. Tony Robbins says people are either moving away from pain or towards pleasure. Right now is the time for the biggest transformations in anyone's life because there's so much pain and there's so much potential pleasure. So you should be as motivated as possible to become the best version of yourself. You also need to take ownership of your time and your priorities. Odds are this has been a cause of friction in your life. I work with a lot of high performers, guys that are successful in their business or their career, but they kind of let that creep into their home life, right? They come home late, they're either still working on work or they're just exhausted for the day. We need to make sure that you're in control of your time, your energy, and your priorities so that you can pour into the things that matter the most to you. You need to become steady regardless of her mood, become unattached, and stop needing her response to feel okay. You become the prize. You become the husband that she'd be absolutely crazy to leave. You have to really embody this because why would we want your wife to come back to a man who doesn't fully believe that he's the absolute prize, that he is the man? If you don't believe it, she's not going to believe it. And we don't want your wife to come back to a marriage because she has no other choice, or I don't know, because of some fear that she has that she can't make it on her own. We want her to come back to the marriage because she sees you as the prize and she absolutely loves and adores you. So you need to become that man. In this stage, do not react to her mixed signals. Do not seek clarity or pressure. Do not ask what her behavior means. Absolutely important, critical here. Don't get excited too early. You may see glimpses of hope, right? She's no longer a negative sentiment override. She's skeptical, she's curious, but you need to make sure that you're not basing how you show up on her emotions, on what she's given you. And don't try to prove anything. This is really important here. The biggest thing that sends guys back from rebuilding trust is when they start learning about themselves, and they start learning about a common example is attachment styles. So a man will start learning his attachment style, and then he'll learn his wife's attachment style. Most of the time, the wives are avoidant. And he'll start sending her things about avoidant attachment and like be like, hey, look, this is so you, this is so you. Don't do any of that. We're not trying to show her the path towards growth. We're not really concerned about her growth right now. You are working your way out of a massive trust deficit. That's what we need to fix first. We're not trying to send her stuff or send her things on how divorce is bad for kids and all these different things. It's not the time nor the place to do that. You have enough things to work on here that you shouldn't be doing any of that. All that's going to do is going to send you back to this stage where you're going to need to create more space and more safety. All right, so we've created safety. We've rebuilt the man. As we're rebuilding the man, trust and respect has risen. Okay, we're no longer in danger zone when it comes to trust and respect. What we're going to do next is we're going to actually rebuild trust. But before we get to that, I want to show you this pyramid. So this is the pyramid of transformation that we use within the Empowered Husband program. What most guys do and what most programs do is they focus everything on the behavior level. So the environment, the bottom level is the environment, which is basically the environment that you create with your wife. Does she feel safe, heard, understood, appreciated, valued? Or does she feel tense, cold, guarded, disrespected, etc.? Logically, you think, well, if I want to create a different environment in my relationship, I need to change my behavior. And so that's why a lot of these gurus do very well on the internet, is because they just teach you manipulation tactics and behaviors to do in order to change the environment. If you want your relationship to thrive year after year, you cannot focus on the behaviors. You need to focus on identity, beliefs, and skills and competencies. So that's where we do the work. We want you to become the man, not just learn tactics, but embody him. Because look, if you embody the right identity, the right beliefs, and you have the right skills and competencies, you don't need to think like, what should I text her? Or how should I respond to this? Or what should I say to this? Those are all behavior-based questions. The quality of your life is dependent on the quality of the questions you ask yourself. Don't ask yourself, what should I do in this specific situation? Ask yourself, what type of man must I become? When you become that man, the behavior becomes easy. It becomes automatic. You don't need to think about what to do because you embody that. I hope that makes sense. All right, so we've rebuilt the man. Her state is going to be curiosity. Now you've been doing a lot of work on yourself. Now she's starting to get curious. She went from skepticism to curiosity. Now she's opening up again. She's spending time with you voluntarily. She's probably laughing with you. She's going to start complying with small requests. She's going to test your boundaries. The biggest thing here is she's going to test everything. And you need to be able to reframe what a test is in your own mind, because it's not her being mean. It's not her being a you-know-what. It's actually just her trying to rebuild trust. You've made some changes internally. She needs to be able to test those changes in order for her mind to rest and her nervous system to feel safe again. She's going to test boundaries. She's going to pull close, then pull back. She's going to watch for consistency, and she's going to check if the change is real. That's what's happening in this curiosity stage. So what you're going to do is you're going to rebuild trust. And what you need to do to rebuild trust is you need to be the riverbank. So as I alluded to a little bit earlier on, the masculine is essentially the riverbank. So what I mean by that is the riverbank doesn't move. It's strong, it's sturdy, it's solid, and it contains the water. All right? It's what actually leads the water. The water is the feminine. It's up, it's down, it can be calm, it could be stormy, it could be windy, all over the place. but the water is what actually brings life to the riverbank. That's the major difference between the masculine and the feminine. You want to be the container. The masculine is the container for the feminine. The feminine must be contained by the masculine. If it is not, she won't feel safe. Because if her emotions are allowed to be all over the place and you react emotionally to her emotions, then you are not being the masculine, which means she's going to need to step into that masculine. So you absolutely need to be the riverbank, which means she's going to come at you, right? You've created enough space and safety in the relationship and trust where now she's going to start spewing a lot of the venom, is what I call it. At this point, she's going to start feeling safe enough to tell you all the things that have pissed her off. And you need to be ready and able and willing to handle the truth. But it's coming. And when it comes, you need to be the riverbank. You need to be non-reactive, and you need to be cool, calm, collected, and under control. When it comes to rebuilding trust, a huge thing is that leadership equals listening. You are going to rebuild trust by asking open-ended questions and being able to listen, being able to let her let all of this stuff out. The difference between men and women, men process their emotions on their own, and I show you the process of how to do that in stage 1 when it comes to processing the anger, the hurt, and the pain. Women tend to process their emotions verbally. So if she's being very chatty with you, even if it's negative, it's a great sign. She's starting to process her emotions and she's starting to see you as a safe and trustworthy space. What you need to do and what we help you do every single step of the way is you need to focus on 4 things. You need to focus on making her feel heard, understood, appreciated, and valued. And men and women communicate in different ways. So what we do is we teach you the skills to go into a relationship already knowing how to do these things. I can't do it in this video. It's an hour video within the program, but you need to be able to understand how to make her feel heard, understood, appreciated, valued. Because if you can do that, you're winning. If you can do that, you are head and shoulders above every other man, every other husband, because this is a very nuanced thing to be able to do. And it's not very logical for a lot of men. Integrity is king. Only commit to what you'll always do. Focus on friendship and co-parenting. Once again, we're not having relationship talks yet. You want her to fully trust you as a great man, a great husband, a great father. And the biggest thing we do is we use what we call the bridge method. The bridge method allows you to wipe the slate clean. It's going to allow you to deal with the biggest emotional issue that's keeping her stuck, right? You don't need to deal with every little hurt or every little transgression that's ever happened in the relationship. The reason she's not coming back and opening back up is because the root emotional issue has never been dealt with. And so what we do is we teach you how to deal with that and then build a bridge into the future to invite her forward with you. Because that's what women need from men. They need our leadership and they need us to call them forward into a life that they feel safe in. And the bridge method allows you to do that. And because you've already done the work in steps 1, 2, and 3, she's already seen with your actions that the life you're looking to create is possible because you've already been doing it. All right. The biggest thing I see here is guys, when they want to rebuild trust, is they either want to talk about the problems or they want to go to therapy. And the problem with both of these is that it's almost like you're trying to drive forward, create a new life, but you're constantly looking in the rearview mirror, looking at what's broken. And where attention goes, energy flows, and what you focus on grows. So if you focus on the problems, you make the problems bigger. So we don't want to do that. And that's why we apply the bridge method. The big mistake here is you don't want to rush connection and attraction and intimacy before she fully trusts you. Because if you do that, and if you use the skills and the strategies that we teach in the next step before creating trust, she is going to violently pull away from you. Because if she's attracted to you, but she doesn't trust you, that signals danger for her. Especially, and I've seen this with a client of mine, it was his birthday, he and his wife went out, they had a couple drinks, she was feeling loose, and she was attracted to him. He was a very masculine guy and very successful. She was attracted to him, but she did not trust him whatsoever. That night they were intimate, and the next day she completely blew up, and she said he manipulated her, and she accused him of all these crazy things. So we want to make sure that we do this in order and we rebuild trust before we try to reignite that attraction. So at this point, we've created space and safety. We've stabilized the marriage. We've created space and safety. We've rebuilt ourselves, which also rebuilt a little bit of trust and respect. And then we focused solely on trust, which also increases the level of respect. Now what we need to do is we're going to focus on connection and attraction. All right? So your wife is probably in emotional buy-in by now, where trust is rebuilding. Yes, of course, because we've actually been rebuilding it. We've been specifically focused on rebuilding trust. Now she may ask you for support. She's going to initiate light physical contact. She's going to open up about her fears, which is awesome. That's what we want. Her fears, her insecurities, her doubts, all these different things. She's going to start including you in her decision-making process. She believes change might be real, and this is a good place for her. So this is the thing. You've now taken your wife from complete fear and panic and a very negative state, which is negative sentiment, to a state where she's opening up. She's feeling emotionally bought into the relationship. She's starting to rest and she's starting to feel safe again. And this is when you get the woman back that you've always wanted. And a lot of guys will say, they'll be like, Justin, what if I do all this work, then I realize I don't want, she's not the woman I want to be with anymore. And I go, the woman she is now is not the woman she's going to be in 3 months by the time the program's done. The same goes for you. If you start doing this work, the man you are now isn't the man you're going to be in 3 months from now. So it's super important to know that. And as you do the work as the man and you lead the relationship, you allow her to become the woman that she's always wanted to become as well. That's the beauty of being the man. You get to lead this process of growth. She believes changes might be real. She talks about the future casually and she still tests you. What we're going to do is we're going to reignite desire. So your job here is you're going to lead with grounded affection and not neediness. It's super important that you remove all neediness. The best way to reignite desire and connection with your wife is obviously at this point, you're going to need to start pursuing your wife. You're going to pursue her, but you're going to pursue her quietly, which I have at the bottom here. You need to understand that if she rejects you, it is okay. It's actually beneficial for her to reject you. Why? So, and I'm saying this because what you need to do is you need to be able to pursue with zero expectations and not falter and not waver if she rejects you. Because by her rejecting you, it's actually building her confidence up as a woman. All right? It's a good thing because if you can build up her confidence and she starts feeling super confident within herself, guess who's the recipient of that? You, because you've built her up. Now she feels good within her own skin. A lot of the times, guys, you're not the only variable within your marriage. She also has her own shit and her own stuff to deal with. And one of the main things that women struggle with is confidence. So if she rejects you a little bit, she starts to feel confident. Wow, I'm an attractive woman. He really wants me. He really craves me. And there's a big difference between doing this now and doing this in stage 1. Okay, there's a reason we do this now. We're going to prioritize fun, laughter, and lightness. Your relationship has probably felt very heavy up until this point. We want to completely shift that. By doing that, we're creating curiosity. We're creating this mystery. In high school or college, the women always love the mystery man. It's because they're unpredictable. So now you're going to be bringing her on dates. You're going to be surprising her. You're going to be doing all these different things. And that's what's going to reignite desire. I want you to stay relaxed when things feel good. Don't think that, I made it. Everything's good. Everything's back to normal. No, not yet. We're going to surprise her without expectation. We're going to stay unpredictable but steady and become a self-assured masculine man. This is where it's really important to fully understand what it is and embody being a self-assured masculine man, because that's what's going to allow her to step into her feminine. Masculine and feminine are a polarity. Just like up and down, north and south, positive, negative, so are masculine and feminine. So the more masculine you can become, the more feminine she can become, the more tension there's going to be between the two of you, the more attraction. And masculine has been demonized in the modern world. A lot of men don't even know what being masculine is anymore. A lot of women think masculinity is toxic. It absolutely is not. In this stage, do not push for sex. Do not seek validation. Do not label the relationship. Don't ask, what are we? Please, please, please don't do that. You're going to go back. And don't force emotional declarations. Okay? No I love yous, no any of that yet. You're in the flirting stage. Remember, think of this as you're relearning your wife from scratch. You're in the flirting stage. Imagine you were in the flirting stage and you start pushing for sex, or you start labeling the relationship too early. You're going to throw the woman off. Think of it this way within your relationship, within your marriage with your wife. The key skill here is non-neediness and intimacy. So at this stage in the game, you've rebuilt safety. You've rebuilt trust and respect. You're becoming the prize again. You're becoming the man you know you can become. You're passing her tests. And now you've rebuilt connection and attraction. I want you to notice, look at where commitment is. Commitment is almost like a switch. The biggest mistake I see guys make is going for commitment before they do anything else. I get on calls every day with guys that want to join the program, and they tell me, yeah, we just had a conversation. I'm asking her, like, what are we? What are we? Like, do I have a chance? That's a huge no-no. You're asking her to make a decision about the relationship when she is a negative sentiment override, when she has expectation bias. Even if she gives you and says, well, maybe in the future we have a chance, you should not be asking her to commit without having all of these different things. Commitment is binary. It's like yes or no. Most people don't commit to a partner, to a marriage, and go like, oh, maybe, I don't know. If it's a maybe, it's a no. So rebuild the things in the right order. Then you can ask for commitment. And guess what? Like I said, commitment is binary. You go from all the way at the bottom to all the way at the top. Do not have any relationship talks. Do not try and get commitment from your wife before you've done the work. If you just ask her, babe, please just give me another chance, it's just going to feel like lip service to her. You need to make sure, and it's just going to feel like you're doing it for you rather than doing it to win her back, rather than doing the things that you know you need to be doing. Now you know the things that you know you need to be doing. Do not ask for another chance. Do not ask her and beg and plead her to give you another chance. Just do the work in these steps, and then naturally, commitment will occur. So you've reignited desire. Now her state is the surrender stage. This is where she laughs freely, where she craves and wants closeness with you. She sees you as her king. She brags about you to her friends. She's talking positively about you. She just can't get enough of you. The connection feels natural again. She feels emotionally safe, and she fully leans into her feminine energy. This is the reconciliation stage. So your job is now you are open to relationship conversations. Now you can start to talk about, okay, what does this look like moving forward? What were the mistakes from the past on your end, on my end? You can actually start to talk about your own emotions and how you have felt. Up until here, you're not talking to your wife about your feelings and her transgressions and what she has done to you. Now you've earned it. Now you can. Now you get clear the air. You can talk about everything. You're actually able to do that because you have buy-in. It's very important that you re-enter the relationship without losing yourself. What we do is we help you establish clear boundaries and clear rules that guide the rest of your life. And you need to be able to prioritize your actions as a self-assured masculine man. What I mean by that is you don't fall back into old patterns. You don't let her emotions or happy wife, happy life affect who you become as a man. You need to continually grow and continually pursue your purpose and pursue becoming the best version of yourself. Your wife never comes above that. Because if you are the best version of yourself, you can pour back into her. And she needs to be able to look up to you and adore you and respect you. So if you don't respect yourself, she will not respect you. You also want to be able to create an alignment and a shared vision within the relationship and communicate and then trust. What I mean by this is she becomes your coach and you become her coach. The best relationships in the world are relationships where both the man and the wife build each other up, right? You bring the best out of her and she brings the best out of you. Once you're able to master this skill, you're never going to need a therapist ever again. You're never going to need a coach. You're never going to need anybody outside of your relationship to help the both of you create that top 1% relationship that you want. In this stage, do not relax your standards. Do not become complacent. Do not revert to old patterns. Do not over-romanticize the moment. And do not stop leading yourself. Now, if you've worked the program, if you've actually done all these steps in order, you don't really need to worry about all that stuff because you should have all this built in. You should have genuine transformation. And you should have broken those negative life patterns for good. As you can see here, ding, 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 we have the relationship that we've wanted. We have safety, trust, respect, connection, attraction, commitment. Now, these aren't always all going to be really high. What happens is maybe after a couple months or you notice respect is faltering. What I like to do is look at this every quarter. So then you can start to ask yourself, you can do this alone and then ask your wife to participate and see, hey, where are we at in all these things? And the more truth and honesty there is in your relationship, the better. So if Emily and I were to have this conversation, she would honestly tell me straight up, well, I respect you. And maybe there's weeks that it's not as good. I know for the most part, she respects me probably up here, but there may be weeks where I'm not being the man I know I can be. And maybe she's like, well, it's kind of fell down here. Or maybe it's the same thing with attraction. Maybe I'm not doing what I need to do in terms of creating that polarity. And maybe she's like, well, attraction is here. And maybe, well, commitment's always going to be 100%, but maybe connection is, because commitment's binary, right? So connection, maybe it's down here. Maybe it's like I'm working too much and it turns red and she doesn't feel connected to me. Now we know exactly what we need to focus on and what we need to work on. All right, that does it for this video. If you'd like my help and you'd want to work with me one-on-one to help you save your marriage and become the man, husband, and father that you've always known you could be, then click the link below, schedule a time on my calendar, and we can have a chat and determine whether or not it's a good fit for you and I to work together. I'll see you soon.